you and to see all of your beautiful faces and your smiles coming out in a great monsoon rainstorm. I love it. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and spending some time with us tonight in the middle of what is a whole lot of awful shit that's happening in the world. So thank you for coming out. I want to thank Beto, our hometown hero. We owe so much to our beloved Beto and Cynthia. Where's Cynthia? Want to thank her for bringing us together tonight. Cynthia, where are you? Cynthia, thank you for all your work. You know, Beto, obviously, like this guy, I don't know where he gets his energy. Sure racks up a lot of frequent flyer points, which is awesome, but he has never stopped. He never stops. And he has been fighting not just for our community, for our democracy, for our country. And it is such a beautiful all of us so much pride that he's one of ours. So things are bad. Things are bad. And you know, I've been home all of August. Members of Congress get to go home in August and do work in our districts. And everywhere I've gone, every engagement I've had, every conversation I've had, these are tough conversations. You know, a lot of people feel demoralized, feel hopeless, feel helpless. And it is hard sometimes to escape that feeling. But moments like this, which are moments that we need, when you look around and see the number of people you've never met before, people maybe you've never seen before, who come out because we've got shared values and we've got shared morals and ideals. I hope moments like this give you the kind of hope that we really need in a dark period. And so I'm grateful to all of you for coming out and for participating in this fellowship in a very dark time. And we know that the big issue right now is redistricting. And we know why it's happening, right? We know why it's happening. Donald Trump knows that his big ugly bill is hated by American voters. He knows that the more that Americans learn about how he and Republicans have cut your health care, have cut nutrition programs, are targeting hardworking Americans, they know we don't like that. They know we hate it. And because he knows that Republicans can't compete fairly after what they've done to us, that they've got to rig the next election in order to prevent what we want to do, which is kick them all out of office. And let me tell you, it is crystal clear that he does not have faith in the big ugly bill. But it's not just about the midterms. It's about 2028 as well. That's what's on the line. And it's not just about 2028 and Donald Trump trying to keep himself in power. It's about undoing the Voting Rights Act. This is a sinister, evil plan to disenfranchise all of us. And I am so proud of Texas Democrats who are fighting in the House, putting everything on the line to raise awareness, to make sure that they are fighting for all of us. And I know that that Joaquin and Jasmine and Beth are going to talk more about redistricting, I want to tell you about one other thing that is happening right here in our community that should infuriate all of us, and I know it does. On Monday, I toured the mega immigration detention facility that was constructed on Fort Bliss. And let me tell you the way that how immoral the mass deportation of our workforce. But what is also immoral is the amount of money that is being poured into this immoral system. That facility that I toured on Monday is $1.24 billion. Just that one facility. Altogether, the mass deportation, the immigration detention system funded in the Big Ugly Bill, $45 billion. You know what we could do with $45 billion? We could house every homeless individual in America for half of that. We could house every homeless individual for half of that. We could feed every child in America for 5 years with that money. We could house every unhoused veteran 5 times over with that money. This is their priority, deporting immigrants, separating families, and taking your benefits and programs that help our families away in order to fund their evil, immoral plan. And I want you all to help us spread the message. In a moment when Americans are struggling to make ends meet, after they promised they would fix the economy on day one, they are spending our money on this immoral plan. And as I mentioned at the top of this, you all, it is beautiful that we are all here together in fellowship. I am going to ask you to do more. Right outside these doors are some incredible organizations that I have the privilege of working with. The local El Paso Democratic Party every single week calls Democrats to talk to them. Every week, including new Democrats to try to ensure that they understand what's on the line. And they call longstanding Democrats to ask them to help volunteer. So we've got a sign-up table right outside the local El Paso Democratic Party. We've all, led by Mike Apodaca. We've also got, for all of you young people, we've got the Young Dems led by Angie, who's outside, and we've got the University Dems led by Angie, and Young Dems led by Jesse. They need you. They need you. If you're a college student, if you're a young student, they need you. I want you to know what else we're doing, and we've got Josie right here. We are spending the weekends in people's homes, in their backyards, in their living rooms, and as our hosts invite their neighbors, some who maybe haven't ever voted, some who have voted as in Republican primaries, some who are infrequent voters. And we're having conversations in their homes with their neighbors and building bridges and growing our base. So we need you. Josie hosted Sundays, and we had a beautiful event on Saturday in the Lower Valley. We've got another one coming up this Saturday. If you want us to be in your home, if you want to help build these bridges, if you want to help build out our base, we need you. Please sign up. We also have Ben Wilbanks with Blue Action out there, another great organization that we are working with. So Blue Action believes in the power of influence among your friend group and among your loved ones. Y'all, people aren't reading newspapers anymore. People aren't watching the news anymore. People are not going to trusted sources anymore. People are getting their information from TikTok, from YouTube, from Instagram, and from friends and family. So let's be that influencer. Sign up with Ben, and Ben will put you to work. And you be in charge of 5 people in your life. And you will make sure they have the information they need, and you will make sure you get them to the polls in the primary, in the general, for school board, for city council, for commissioner's court. So I love this crowd. I need to put you to work. So we need your sweat equity. And I have to say, speaking of sweat equity, Deanna was up here. I see Commissioner Stout. I know County Judge Ricardo Samaniego will be here shortly if he's not here already. Members of City Council who fought these maps. Let's give them a round of applause because they are helping find the maps. Thank you. Commissioner Jackie Butler had a resolution to fight the detention facility. So people, local government matters. Local government matters. Jeff Samaniego flew all the way to Austin to fight the maps. So we need you. We are a great community, but last election, we swung 20 points to the right. So yeah, 20 points to the right. So when we feel the anxiety of what's happening across the country, we've got work to do in our backyard. And that's why I wanted to introduce you to these great groups and organizations, and it's fun. It is fun. You get to work alongside people who love to fight for their democracy and work hard every day to make sure we preserve our right to vote and that we can pass along to the next generation what we have been lucky to inherit. And as I see Paul Thompson, if you don't belong to a union, join a damn union today, okay? Join a damn union today. Join a union today. So, again, thank you all for coming out. We need to put you to work. Sign up, join a union, invite us to your house. We want to be there to help grow democracy in El Paso. We will lead by example because this community has always led with love. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you too. I now have the incredible privilege of introducing probably the one person who lives most rent-free in Donald Trump's head. The person who has, honestly, I don't know where all the clap packs come from. I need to take notes and learn how to do the clap backs. But someone who has, after fighting for people as a lawyer, and she, my friends, is a star. Help me. something make a change. Oh, El Paso! All is well with my soul right now. I am so excited to be in my amazing colleagues' district. Give it up again for the incomparable Veronica Escobar. Listen, we served in leadership last Congress together. You have no idea of how hard this woman works. There's only so much you can put on social media and TV. This woman gives her all for this district every single day that she shows up, so you should all be proud. And the reason that she can go through those numbers so well is because she serves on the powerful Appropriations Committee. Lena, it is so good to see you, my friend. So good to see you, my friend. I decided that I wanted to wear a throwback t-shirt. This t-shirt is from when we broke quorum in 2021. Yeah. I wanted to stand in solidarity with those Texas House Dems that have decided that they were going to arouse the entire country and make them aware of the transgressions taking place right here in the state of Texas. So let's give it up for the Texas House Dems. And you know that I usually don't repeat myself, number one. Number two, I always try to figure out what is the song of inspiration for me. And today it was Michael Jackson. Now I'm an 80s baby. So I grew up with MJ. But when I think about what the Texas Dems were able to do in what was just only 2 weeks, they were able to ignite change in this country. You see, before they decided to break quorum, there was no conversation in California about whether or not they would try to counter what was taking place in Texas. There were no conversations going on in Illinois. These conversations weren't taking place until they had the audacity to say, we will not just sit here idly while you minimize our voices. Now, some want you to believe that this isn't about racism. Listen, I'm gonna just give y'all the facts and the numbers, because this isn't personal for me. This is about making sure that Texans are represented in all our beautiful shapes and colors. So, unfortunately, we saw that this map passed today in the Texas House. Bad. Now, if for some reason the Texas Senate decides that they want to break quorum, we can kill another special session. I just want to put it out there. But if for some reason this map ends up becoming law, do you understand that if you are, say, Latino in the state of Texas, that your vote is basically 1/3 that of your Anglo neighbor? If you are an African American in the state of Texas, then your vote is 1/5 that of your Anglo neighbor. Listen, we're not looking for handouts. We're looking for representation. We're looking for people that will show up and represent for us, all of us in Texas. There's 30 million people in this state. How dare they decide that only a certain group of people are allowed to be heard? We all are entitled in this country, in a democracy, to be heard and to have representation that represents us. So here it is. People say, what can we do? Well, number one, you started off real well. You showed up today, even in the rain. Give yourself a hand clap. Now, number two, Veronica went down an exhaustive list of organizations that you can get engaged in. But the question, she forgot one, indivisible. But here's the thing. Right now, people keep asking a couple of questions if they associate themselves as Democrats.
One of the questions is, who is our leader? That's one of the questions. I am here to tell you that, as Michael Jackson told us a long time ago, I'm gonna need you to look in the mirror. You are the ones that we have been waiting for. The reality is that most people don't want to listen to a politician because most people don't trust politicians. And after all the things that we've seen, whether we're talking about the pedophiles or otherwise, I absolutely understand why they don't want to trust a politician. I'm not mad at you. So if you're not going to trust the politicians, then it's up to you to be the change that you want to see in this country. So that starts with doing things like making sure that they can't divide us. That has been my most frustrating thing. Because when you look at the agenda of this administration, there is something for everybody to hate. Whether you hate their immigration policies or really it's just immigration thuggery because it ain't policies. If you hate that, if you hate their anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as rolling back our civil rights and civil liberties, if you hate the fact that every time you look up, it seems like they're going after a political enemy instead of going after actual criminals, if for some reason you feel a way about the fact that they have fired hard-working federal workers in every single agency that you can think of, if you had looked at the fact that they are trying to defund education in this country so that only a select group can afford to be educated, listen, or you can look at the fact that they said we want to take healthcare away from 17 million people, also deleting $1 trillion out of the healthcare economy, raising premiums on every single one of you, no matter what type of healthcare you have, or let's just say that you actually care about your neighbor that unfortunately cannot afford to put food on their table, and so you say, I am against the fact that they want to shut down SNAP benefits to our most vulnerable when they're only getting $6 a day to eat in the first place. And by doing so, our farmers and our ranchers, which we have a lot of them in Texas, they are going to suffer. When they decided to cut off USAID, it was our farmers and our ranchers that suffered because they lost those contracts. Now they've decided that children that go to school and are entitled to a free lunch, they are not going to be able to eat. Let me tell you something. This is not a pro-life party. This is a pro-death party. There is something for each and every one of you to hate that they are doing if you have a soul. That's it. Anybody that has half a soul. It's over this administration. It didn't take 7 or 8 months for us to realize that we were in some big trouble. We knew that in the first few days, unfortunately. Or the fact that we had an economy that was recovering as one of the strongest to recover out of the pandemic in the world, and now all of those gains, we are losing them. Besides the fact that people are losing their jobs, they're not going to be able to afford their food, they're not going to be able to afford housing, they're not going to be able to afford healthcare, education. We are talking about the very basics. And maybe this sounds normal for some place other than the United States of America, but that's not who we are. So let me tell you something. I appreciate the flags that I see. I appreciate the fact that we opened this by singing our national anthem. Don't let them take patriotism away from us, because we are the real patriots in this country. Don't let them co-opt and corrupt Christianity, because we know what it means to love thy neighbor. It is time for us to rise instead of sitting there and saying, well, we live in Texas and it's deep red. It ain't. If it was, they wouldn't go through so much to try to minimize our ability to get to the ballot box. They are systemically making sure that we cannot express ourselves. That is why they went as far as to incarcerate my former colleague who had not broken a law. This is not America. And if you are not mad, you are not paying attention. So here's the deal. There's two amazing men coming after me. So I do not want to hold you, but I do want to motivate you. I do want you to believe in the power of change. I do want you to believe that you are the change makers that you have been waiting for. I want you to know that I am the girl that never was supposed to be. My parents weren't politicians. I didn't grow up in an extra political family. I never was supposed to go to law school. When I tell you that I wasn't supposed to win my state house race, and it was the closest state house race in the state of Texas, and I was a thank you, Lottie, into the Texas House by a whopping 90 votes after having been outspent 5-1, and the difference was the people. I'm not here to hype you up because that's what a politician is supposed to do. I'm here to testify and give you my testimony about what I know you can do. As I sat here with our amazing Councilwoman Rocha, we were talking about volunteers. And we were talking about how hard it is to find them. What I didn't tell her, and I mean this, and so that's why I want you to really pay attention and decide today that you are going to do something. You are going to do at least one thing to save this country, because this country belongs to all of us and our children that are coming behind us and their children. What I didn't tell her as we were talking about volunteers and campaigning was that when I was running for the state house, I ended up with over 300 volunteers for a state house race. That is unheard of. And even though we did not have the money, we had the people. And the people believed, and when they showed up, they talked about the fact that they took off work just to volunteer for me. That they were missing money because they believed in my ability. And somehow, after just one term in the Texas House, I got a call from the late, great Eddie Bernice Johnson. And she said, it's time for you to move on up, kid. Let me tell you something. Never, ever doubt yourselves. Never, ever doubt your power. You're the most influential person in your circle. Make sure you use that influence and you use it for good. So my challenge to you is, after you sign up for every organization that Veronica told you to sign up for, at least once a week. How many of you have a group chat? Yeah, you are. That's the only place we can't invade as politicians. If y'all understand, no ads come in the group chat. So I need y'all to be my asters. I need you to go in there and make sure you're sharing at least one truth. Don't be presumptuous that in your family group chat they all know what's going on. Or if it's your soccer mom group chat, whatever it is, make sure you are sharing at least one fact about what is taking place in our country. Because one of the reasons that we lost this election was because of disinformation, or as I like to say, just flat out lies. We need to be truth tellers. That is my charge to each and every one of you. Find one truth to make sure that you are telling people every single week that are within your circle. And then I'm gonna piggyback off of Veronica. I am so tired of us being divided. I said that earlier. And I think it's easy to be divided if our only communications are through the internet. In fact, as many of you are sitting in here in a crowded room with standing room only, how many of you took the time to introduce yourself to the person sitting next to you? That's my point. That's my point. So, I heard we got some preachers in here. And in black church, they usually tell you, turn to your neighbor. And at least say hi and introduce yourselves. You see, let me tell you what's crazy about that. minimum. We are so disconnected. At some point in time, we used to know who our neighbors were. We used to absolutely be able to go over and borrow sugar, or at a very minimum, when I was growing up, everybody knew that I belonged to my granny. So if I got out of line, I was getting reported on, right? We have to get back to that sense of community. It is harder to hate someone that you know. It is so much easier to listen to them and to hear them pass an ugly red hat. Y'all caught that? So I'm begging you, I'm charging you to push yourself past what our current norm is. To start to introduce yourself to people as you're out. You don't have to be a politician to talk to people. I just want you to go up and talk to people and start to have real human connection. I personally believe that that is going to be the solution to stopping all the hate and allowing us to see our commonality and hopefully unite against the only hater that we have right now, which is the one in the White House, y'all. All right, I appreciate y'all. So now, listen, I have to pinch myself because every day I wake up with real life superheroes that surround me. And one of the superheroes that you're about to hear from is a superhero in every single way. Besides the fact that technically he kind of has like a body double. I'm looking for one myself. If anybody's interested. This is someone who understands the importance of doing right at all times. You know, it's interesting because a lot of politicians become real invested in something once it becomes personal. And then there's some people that just see good legislation and say it's what we need to do. Well, let me tell you, way before Congressman Castro was going through his own health battles, he was a champion for health care. That is what public service looks like. And overall, these are the type of people that we have to make sure that we are sending into every single level of government as people that just want to do the right thing because it's just the right thing to do. So, I've never met his mama, but she raised two amazing public servants. And so I am so thankful to be able to serve with him, to be able to learn from him, and honestly just be able to admire him and all that he does. So please join me in my prayer.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you. Isn't she amazing? Jasmine Crockett. Thank you. How are you doing at Paso? It's wonderful to be back here and also wonderful to be with my good friend. The Congress is off for the month of August, but always great to be with Veronica Escobar, who is such a proud El Pasoan. She does amazing work in Congress. I'm very proud to represent my hometown of San Antonio, Texas. And I grew up on the west side of San Antonio, which would be like growing up probably on the east side of El Paso. And over the last few weeks in particular, Texas has shown the nation how you stand up to a bully in Donald Trump. Thank you to Nicole Collier for standing up for what's right. Thank you to our state reps for standing up for what's right. And because I don't want to forget it, and I want to make sure that I mention it, and we should all appreciate it. Thank you to Beth O'Rourke for helping to support them financially. You stepped up in a big way to financially support our state reps and what they've done. Thank you, Bethel, for all of it. Absolutely. And, you know, as we think about what's going on, as we think about the oppressiveness, the divisiveness, oftentimes the hatred and the bullying, and we think about what's at stake for our country, of course, there's the issue of this illegal gerrymandering that's going on right now. But there's also the issue of ICE agents out on the street in American cities, wearing masks, refusing to identify themselves, looking for people who are brown-skinned and speaking Spanish to target. We warned them years ago that the legislation that Greg Abbott was pursuing with SB 4, that the legislation that Donald Trump was pushing in his rhetoric would get not only ugly, but dangerous for people. And that's exactly what's happened now. I want you all to think about this beautiful city of El Paso. It's much like my hometown of San Antonio. And think about the neighborhoods and the communities that you grew up in. You think about, for example, the incredible contribution that our immigrants have given us, the lifeblood of both of our cities, the places that we call home. I think about my grandmother, who was the first in my family to come to the United States. My grandmother came here as an orphan when she was 6 or 7 years old. My grandmother was from Coahuila, Mexico. Coahuila, in northern Mexico. My grandmother and her younger sister, my grandmother's name was Victoria, and her younger sister was Trinidad. And they came to the United States because their parents, both their parents had died around the time of the Mexican Revolution. And the closest relatives that could take them in were not in Coahuila or in northern Mexico, they were in San Antonio. And when my brother spoke at the Democratic National Convention in 2012, you know, when you tell your story, after a while, if you give a big enough speech or you run in a big enough race, people start looking to tell whether you're actually telling the truth about your story. And there was this, I guess, genealogist that went and researched our family history, and quite honestly, in a way that I had not done. And she found the document that allowed my grandmother to come into the United States in 1922. And there was a line that stood out to me in that document. The line asked the question, purpose of visit. And her relatives had written in that line in 1922, to live, that she was coming to live. That is the dream, that is the contribution, that is the story of so many of our families over the years, of people that came here with nothing, who gave this country everything and helped us succeed in the United States of America. And my grandmother, she only made it through elementary school. She settled on the west side of town. She lived in a household at times with 7, 8, 9, 10 people. Everybody doing everything they could to support the family and make sure people had enough to eat. My grandmother dropped out of elementary school, and so she used to say that she worked the rest of her life as a maid cook to do everything that she could to support herself and to get by, and do everything that she could to give my mom, who was her only child, a better chance in life than she had. But when I think about where we are today and where Donald Trump and the Republican Party want to take us, it reminds me of some of the stories that my grandmother used to talk about. You see, back then, there were some Texas establishments that said, no dogs, Negroes, or Mexicans allowed. It was illegal for about 40 years to speak Spanish in Texas public schools. In fact, some of you may remember or told by your parents or your grandparents, or if you're senior enough, you may have lived through it. You were spanked and punished if you spoke Spanish. You had people who literally had a language eaten out of them in the United States of America. We are never going to go back to that United States of America. We're not going to let Donald Trump take us back to that time. Because I know what my grandmother meant to her family and to her city and her community, just as I'm sure all of you know what your parents and your grandparents have meant to you. She worked all of those years, and this is where I want us to share our stories as Jasmine mentioned. Because when we talk about things like cuts to SNAP and cuts to Medicaid and people talking about cutting Social Security and Medicare, sometimes we get wrapped up into talking about it only as black letter policy or numbers on a budget or a page. But it's not. It's a lot more than that. It's a lot more important than that. It's people's lives. And oftentimes, for a lot of people, it's actually a matter of life or death. You see, my grandmother, after working all of those years, she was a diabetic, and when she could no longer work, when she had worked as a maid and a babysitter and a cook, and gotten my mom through high school and through college, my mom was the first in her family to go to college, when she could no longer do any kind of work, my grandmother didn't have a 401k, she didn't own a house, she never owned a car, I don't even think she had a bank account. The only thing that she had to her name after all of those years in giving so much of herself was about a $335 a month Social Security check and her Medicare. And that's still the story for so many of our seniors today. So when they talk about doing away with Social Security or Medicare or cutting Medicaid, they're doing terrible things to so many of our senior citizens who rely on that just to get by. And so these issues are real issues for all of us. So please go and tell your stories. Go and tell people what it means to you when they talk about these things. For me, as Jasmine mentioned, I know the stakes personally now, in a way, quite honestly, that I wish that I didn't. You see, I want to tell you a quick story in my own life. 3 years ago, I was on a work trip to Spain. I was the co-chair of something called the U.S. Spain Council. And we were in Bilbao, Spain, and I'd never been to Spain before. And we were on the last night of this conference, and we were at this place that was like, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 minutes outside of Bilbao. And it was late at night already, and I had a flight back to San Antonio early the next morning. And so I was a passenger in a car, and we were driving back into the city. And as we were driving on this road that was pretty dark, kind of a rural or semi-rural road, we were driving probably 65 or 70 miles an hour, and the driver hit a wild boar. For those of you that have ever hit livestock, any kind of animal on the road, you know the impact from that hit. And so the front end of the car was crashed in, the windshield was broken, the airbags came out, and I had never been in a crash. I've been in fender benders before, but I'd never been in a crash that was that violent. And so right away, you wonder, whether you're hurt, whether you need to go to the hospital. I actually looked around. I kind of, took stock of myself, and I felt like I was okay. There was nothing obviously wrong. I wasn't bleeding. And the ambulances came and to check on us. And then after a while, they start getting impatient. So they're wondering, okay, is anybody going to go to the hospital? Do you want to go to the hospital or not? And the only thing I noticed was that my hand had started to swell up a little bit and get red. And so I thought, well, if I have to come back home and make an insurance claim, I better go to the hospital so they believe me that I actually got in an accident in Spain. And so I thought, well, I have this flight at 7 or 8 in the morning. I'll just go to the hospital. I'll get an x-ray done. It'll take 20 minutes. And then I'll be on my way back to the hotel, and I'll go pack, and then I'll go to the airport. And so they drive us to this hospital on the outskirts of Bilbao. And I get to the hospital, and I walk in, and I tell them, oh, my hand, and can I get an x-ray? And they said, right away, they put this brace on me, this neck brace on me, where you can't move your neck. It keeps you still in place. And they said, we see a lot of accidents on these roads. And sometimes the impact and the effect is not apparent right away. Sometimes it takes a few hours or even a few days to fully realize what's going on. So they gave me something that I had never had before, because I've been pretty healthy and I'd never been hospitalized before. They gave me something called an MRI with contrast. Those of you that have had it, or a CAT scan with contrast, you know that they inject a dye into your body to see what's going on with your organs. And I'd never had that before. So it takes maybe like 40 or 45 minutes to do the whole thing. And then the doctor comes and she tells me that they're going to let me go, and they start moving me to the front, and they were going to take out the IV. One of the last things that they do when you're admitted to a hospital and they're going to release you is they take out your IV. So we're in these curtained off rooms,
And I'm laying there, you know, kind of expecting to get out in a few minutes. And the doctor walks back in, and there's a curtain at the front of this area, and she closes that curtain. And she walks over to me, and it was at this point in my life where I wish I spoke better Spanish than I did. She walks over to me, and she says in English and in Spanish, she says, "I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but my radiologist called down to me, and he believes that he sees 2 neuroendocrine tumors that have moved from your small intestine into your liver." Here I was in Bilbao, Spain, in the middle of nowhere, as far as I knew, with a doctor telling me that I had cancer. And so I flew home. I missed my flight the next day, but I got home after that. And you can imagine the next weeks were filled with doctor's appointments and PET scans and CAT scans in San Antonio and then at MD Anderson in Houston. And I eventually had surgery in February of 2023. And the remaining tumors that I have haven't grown in 3 years. So I just need them to not grow for about 40 more years, and then I'll be okay. But I had surgery, and one of the things for those of y'all that have had surgery, you know, in recovery, they want you to walk around, right, as part of the recovery and healing. And I was walking around, and they told us to take it easy. So I didn't watch any news. I didn't watch MSNBC. I didn't watch CNN. I didn't call Beto. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't call Veronica. I didn't talk to anybody. But I'm walking around doing my laps, and I noticed that there's 2 rooms in a row of people watching Fox News. I said, wait, I thought they said to take it easy. But as I was walking around, it was people of different backgrounds. And as we were walking past each other, nobody really stopped to talk because everybody was dealing with their own thing. But in those moments, nobody's politics mattered. I didn't know whether those people are Republicans or Democrats, except I assume for the folks watching Fox News. But it didn't matter. And so when you cut things like Medicaid, and when you cut the Affordable Care Act, you're not just hurting Democrats or liberals or progressive people. You're hurting all Americans in this country. And that's why, as Democrats, we have fought those cuts, and we believe in supporting universal health care coverage for all Americans. In the legislature, in the Congress, I always fought for that, but it had never been personal in this way. And then after my surgery, I got this long bill, this itemized bill, and you know, on deductibles, on premiums, on co-pays, on a class of drugs called specialty drugs. And if you have to take one, you have to make sure that your insurance policy covers a specialty drug, or you're going to be paying thousands and thousands of dollars every month, which most of us, including myself, can't afford. There was a line in these bills that stood out to me. And that line was for a drug, for a treatment that I have to take every month of a drug called lanreotide. The line item price for this drug, every 28 days that I have to take it, every injection, was $24,000 per injection. And so when I think about what it means to replace in Texas 5 Texas Democrats in Congress with 5 Texas Republicans, I'll tell you what the difference is. I don't want 5 more people who are going to vote against cancer research. I don't want 5 more people that are going to vote against health care. I don't want 5 more people that are going to take away people's Medicaid and Medicare. I want people that are going to help folks in our country, our state, survive and thrive in the United States of America. So as we fight these things, the most powerful voice that you have is your own. The most powerful stories you can tell are your own. And the most important people that you can tell them to are the people in your lives. Your family members, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbor, every single person who can make a difference. I told you as Democrats, why I want to make sure that we keep our Texas Democrats. There's also a reason that Donald Trump wants those Democrats to go away, and he wants 5 Texas Republicans. He wants 5 Texas Republicans because he doesn't want any incumbents. He wants 5 new Republicans because he doesn't want the Epstein files released. He wants 5 new Republicans because he doesn't want anybody investigating his crypto scheme or his crony capitalism. He wants these 5 Republicans